The stars hung like frozen sparks above the quiet dark of Sector 9X, a forbidden region in the outer rim of the Orion Arm. No trade ships came here. No colonies. No war. Nothing but ancient silence and scattered debris from battles fought long before most species learned to leave their homeworlds. That silence shattered. A patrol ship from the Zarkali Empire, Varkan's Claw, drifted along the edge of the sector. Its sensors scanned routinely, expecting nothing but space dust and static. On the bridge, Subcommander Yelna frowned. Her thick green skin twitched under the flickering lights of her console. "Commander," she called out, "anomaly detected. Object just appeared on our grid. No approach vector, no heat trail, no transponder." The ship's captain, Commander Grau, lumbered over. "Stealth vessel? Unknown. Shape and signature do not match any known Zarkali, Krillin, or Threx patterns." Grau's eyes narrowed. "Bring it on screen." The image blinked into view. A sleek, black warship hovered in space, its surface matte and unnaturally smooth. No visible engines. No insignia. It looked like a shadow carved from metal, floating where nothing should be. It moved forward slowly. Silent. Confident. Grau stepped back. "Alert, High Command." Now, thousands of light-years away, in the central Zarkali system, a transmission lit up in the War Hall of the High Council. High Inquisitor Kor Valek stood in the center, robes trailing behind his tall frame. He stared at the screen. "A Terran ship?" he said, voice calm but sharp. "Yes, High Inquisitor," said the aide beside him. "Unknown class. Appeared in restricted space. We believe it belongs to the Terran Republic." Valek's expression darkened. "Earth? Impossible. Their fleet is obsolete. They have no ships capable of deep stealth or interstellar jumps without relay gates." The aide hesitated. "We thought that, sir. Until now." Valek turned, his voice cold and exact. "Send a fleet. Immediately. Intercept and disable. If Earth thinks it can test us, we will remind them of their place." Aboard the unknown warship, now identified in Earth's own encrypted logs as the TSV Revenant, Commander Alaravas sat quietly in the captain's chair. The bridge was silent but alive, bathed in low blue lighting. Holographic displays floated in front of each station. Her crew worked in tight, disciplined coordination. "Zarkali ships have noticed us," said Lieutenant Rami, her executive officer. "Multiple pings. They're scrambling reinforcements." Alara nodded. Her voice was calm, steady. "Let them. That's the point." She stood and walked toward the front of the bridge. Through the curved glass viewport, the Zarkali patrol ship floated like a curious insect. Alara didn't feel fear. She felt focus. For years ago, Earth had discovered alien tech buried under the Antarctic ice. They had no idea it would lead to this. The relics were ancient, predating any known galactic empire. Quietly, Earth's brightest minds worked in secret to unlock what they could. The result? The Revenant. A ship that shouldn't exist. Not by Terran standards. Not by anyone's. "We've crossed the line," Rami said. "No," Alara replied. "We've drawn it." Zarkali High Command scrambled a dozen ships. Within hours, the sector was full of bristling cruisers and destroyers, all facing the lone Terran vessel. They expected fear. Retreat. Maybe a surrender. Instead, the Revenant stood still. Silent. Watching. Inside, Alara's team remained ready. She reviewed her mission orders one last time. Do not fire unless attacked. Do not retreat. Demonstrate capability. No compromise. This was Earth's message to the galaxy. We are not prey anymore. On the Zarkali flagship, Valek himself arrived in orbit. He stood at the front of his command deck, staring at the Terran ship through a magnified display. "One ship," he whispered, his voice like iron scraping steel. "One ship, and yet I feel the air shift." The officers around him didn't reply. He turned and gave a single command. "Send a warning." Back on the Revenant, a deep tone echoed through the bridge. "An incoming message." "Plane transmission," Rami said. The voice of Kor Valek crackled through the speakers. "This is High Inquisitor Valek of the Zarkali Empire. You are in restricted space. You will surrender your vessel immediately or be fired upon. You are not recognized as a power in this sector." Alara stared at the speaker for a long second. Then she spoke, clearly and without emotion. "Reply. This is Commander Alaravas of the Terran ship Revenant. We will not surrender. We will not retreat. We are here because you believed we would never come. You were wrong." Rami sent the message. Outside, the Zarkali ships adjusted formation. Inside the Revenant, the crew prepared for what might come next. Alara sat back in her chair. Her fingers tapped the console lightly. She whispered, "Let them come." Before she became commander of Earth's most advanced warship, Alara Voss was a tactician, one of the best. She didn't come from privilege or politics. She came from dust and data. Raised on Europa Station, a mining hub orbiting Jupiter, she grew up in the shadows of giant machines and artificial sunlight. Her mother was an engineer. Her father died in the resource riots when she was 5. She learned early how fragile peace could be. By the time she was 20, she had already graduated from the Terran Defense Academy with top honors in battle simulations and fleet logistics. But she didn't want a desk job. She wanted to protect Earth not with numbers, but with action. That's how she caught the attention of Project Revenant. For years before the current standoff in Sector 9X, Earth made a discovery that changed everything. A research team in Antarctica uncovered a buried structure under the Ross Ice Shelf. It wasn't natural, and it wasn't human. The material was something no Terran lab could identify, cold to the touch, but pulsing with low-frequency energy. Inside the structure were devices, broken, ancient, and silent. Most were dead, but one wasn't. It was a sphere the size of a grapefruit. When it was moved from the chamber, it lit up. Not with light, but gravity. The air twisted around it. Electronic equipment shorted out within seconds. Whatever it wasn't meant to be held by human hands. But Earth held it anyway. The Terran Council launched Project Revenant in secret. Only a few hundred people knew of its existence: top engineers, scientists, AI developers, and military leaders. Alara was handpicked to lead the Military Oversight Division. She didn't ask for power. She earned it. They built the ship in orbit, hidden inside the debris field of an abandoned satellite graveyard. For years, supply drones delivered parts piece by piece. The Revenant was assembled under extreme secrecy, its core built directly around the alien gravity sphere. No one knew how it worked. They only knew it did. The hull of the ship was made from carbon nanoweave and self-healing alloys. Its propulsion system could bend local space to move silently and without trail. No heat signature, no sound, no visible thrust. But the true secret was in the weapon. Alara remembered the day it was tested. She stood in a dark observation room with a handful of scientists. The Revenant's prototype, still missing outer armor, fired a contained gravity burst at a derelict cruiser used for testing. The cruiser didn't explode. It didn't catch fire. It simply folded, like a tin can crushed by an invisible hand. There was silence in the room for a long time after that. "Are we sure this is safe?" one scientist asked. Alara didn't answer right away. She just watched the twisted wreckage drift through space. "No," she said finally. "But it might be necessary." Now, standing on the bridge of the completed TSV Revenant, Alara knew that every decision, every sacrifice, had led to this moment. The crew around her was hand-selected. Loyal. Disciplined. Most had no family. All had sworn to secrecy. They had trained for months inside a virtual simulation of the ship before ever stepping on board. No one outside their circle had seen the Revenant until today. Lieutenant Rami stood beside her at the tactical console. He was a former intelligence officer, calm and quiet, with a steel focus. He had served on the lunar border skirmishes and survived. That alone earned Alara's trust. "Inquisitor Valek's fleet has finished its formation," Rami said. 12 ships. 6 destroyers. 1 dreadnought. Alara crossed her arms. "And how many weapons aimed at us?" "All of them." She nodded. "They're nervous." He looked at her. "You're not." "No," she said. "I've already decided what we do. We don't fire. Not unless we must. We didn't come to start a war. But we came ready to win one," Rami said. Alara allowed herself the smallest smile. "Exactly." Behind her, Chief Engineer Lin was monitoring the core systems. Lin was brilliant, probably the only person on Earth who could talk to the alien sphere embedded in the ship's center. He didn't fully understand it, but he understood enough to keep it stable. "Her output steady," Lin reported. "Shields humming. Gravity engine at 89% capacity. Any sign they're preparing to fire?" Alara asked. "None yet. They're scanning us. Hard. Their sensors are bouncing off our hull like pebbles." "Let them guess," she said. She returned to her command chair and sat down slowly. The chair molded itself around her with a quiet hum. She glanced around the bridge. Everyone was in place. Everyone was ready. This wasn't just a mission. This was a message. She thought briefly of Earth, of the blue oceans and cloud-wrapped continents, of the Council, full of nervous old men who had approved this mission with shaking hands. They didn't believe she would survive this. Some didn't even want her to succeed. A few had hoped the ship would fail and be forgotten. But Alara didn't serve the Council. She served Earth. We're not here to conquer, she reminded herself. We're here to stand. And with that, she gave her order. Hold position. Prepare for contact. Let them make the first move. The Revenant remained motionless, like a shadow carved into space. The Zarkali ships closed in, bright with weapons and arrogance. They still didn't understand. But soon, they would. The TSV Revenant hovered silently in the void, surrounded on all sides. 12 Zarkali warships formed a wide circle, like wolves cornering an unknown beast. Their engines pulsed with blue and violet light, forming ripples in space as they adjusted position. On board the Revenant, everything remained calm. Inside the bridge, the lighting was dim, the air still. The crew worked in silence, their movements smooth and practiced. No one panicked. They had trained for this moment again and again. Commander Alara Voss sat upright in her command chair. Her hands rested on her lap, her eyes focused on the largest Zarkali ship directly ahead, the dreadnought Zalkroth. It was massive, more than 3 times the size of the Revenant, covered in spiked armor and weapon ports. Lieutenant Rami broke the silence. Zarkali flagship is sending a second transmission. Alara gave a small nod. Put it through. The voice of High Inquisitor Kor Valek filled the bridge. Terran vessel, this is your final warning. You are surrounded by lawful ships of the Zarkali Empire. Power down and surrender. You will not be harmed. Resistance will result in destruction. His tone was flat, but full of superiority. He didn't believe Alara would challenge him. In his eyes, Terrans were not equals. They were outliers. Strays. Alara leaned forward slightly. Open channel. Rami tapped the control. A small green icon flashed on the screen. She spoke clearly, her voice steady. This is Commander Alara Voss of the Terran Republic. We will not power down. We will not surrender. We are not here to start a war, but we will not run from one either. Make your choice. She ended the transmission. There was a long pause. Then Rami whispered, they're charging weapons. Alara didn't flinch. Status on our systems? Shields at full strength. Gravity core stable. Hull integrity nominal. She stood up and faced her crew. Weapons ready, but do not fire unless fired upon. Outside the ship, the Zarkali destroyers moved into tighter formation. Their hulls opened, revealing plasma lances and energy cannons. Red lights glowed across their undercarriages. Inside the Revenant, tension hung like fog, but no one moved without purpose. Chief Engineer Lin called from below deck, voice clear over comms. Core heat rising, but within safe limits. Ready to fire on command. Hold, Alara said. Let them show their hand. On board the Zarkali dreadnought Zalkroth, High Inquisitor Valek narrowed his eyes. He stared at the tiny black ship before him. She's bluffing, he said. One of his lieutenants stepped forward cautiously. Sir, the Terran ship disabled our sensors twice already. It is unusual. Valek turned slowly. Terrans are scavengers. This is a trick. Their ship is a painted coffin. He raised a clawed hand. Fire a warning shot. Low yield. Aim across their bow. A bolt of bright plasma shot from one of the destroyers. It streaked across space, glowing like a burning comet. It passed just meters ahead of the Revenant's nose, close enough to light up its hull in orange reflection. Inside the bridge, alarm stayed silent. The Revenant didn't shake. Warning shot confirmed, Rami said. Alara inhaled slowly. Disable that destroyer. No deaths. Yes, Commander. Rami's fingers danced across the controls. The ship didn't fire missiles or lasers. Instead, a pulse of gravity burst from beneath the Revenant, a silent wave of invisible force. It struck the destroyer like a hammer. Outside, the Zarkali ship didn't explode. Instead, its engines flickered, then went dark. Power failed across the ship. It drifted, silent and disabled, but intact. Gasps echoed inside the Zarkali dreadnought. Valek stepped forward, eyes narrowed. What was that? His comms officer looked stunned. We don't know. Our readings show nothing. Just a spike in localized gravity. Valek clenched his fists. One more move like that and now. Another officer cut in. Sir, we're receiving a second message from the Terran vessel. Back on the Revenant, Alara stood at the center of the bridge. Her voice filled every Zarkali ship in range. That was restraint. You fired first. We responded without casualties. Do not force us to escalate further. The message ended. Alara sat down again. Her face remained calm, but her heart beat faster now. She was walking a razor-thin line between peace and war. Rami turned to her quietly. That ship had over 200 crew. I know. You disabled it without a single injury. That was the point, she said. Let them think. Let them doubt. They expected fear. Instead, they got a lesson. Just as the crew began to relax slightly, a red alert pulsed on the comms panel. "Commander," said Rami, "we have a problem. Internal breach attempt. Someone's trying to access restricted controls on Deck 3. What? I've locked them out, but they knew the override path." Alara rose fast. "Who's on Deck 3? Ambassador Reen and his assistant." Alara's face hardened. "Rami with me. Lynn, you have the bridge." They moved quickly through the metal corridors of the Revenant, boots clanging softly on the floor. When they reached Deck 3, Alara drew her sidearm. The door to the auxiliary systems room was already open. Inside, Ambassador Reen stood near a console, sweat on his brow. His assistant, a pale man with trembling hands, backed away slowly as Alara entered. "I can explain," Reen began. "No," Alara said. "You can listen." She raised her weapon. "You just tried to compromise my ship in the middle of a military standoff. I want to know why." Reen swallowed. "You don't understand, Commander. Earth isn't ready for this. We shouldn't be here. I was trying to send a surrender signal." "You were trying to betray us," Rami said, stepping forward. "I was trying to prevent a massacre," Reen shouted. Alara stepped closer, eyes locked on him. "You almost caused one." She turned to Rami. "Confine them both. Under heavy guard. I'll deal with them after we survive this." Back on the bridge, Alara returned to her chair. The Zarkali ships had not fired again. They were waiting. She took a deep breath. The real battle wasn't just firepower. It was trust, fear, control. She had proven that humanity could strike without killing. Now, she had to prove they could lead without bowing. She looked at her crew. "Prepare for a formal transmission. It's time we speak to Volek directly." Outside, the stars burned cold and quiet. But inside the Revenant, fire had been lit. Space was still, but the tension between ships felt like a storm waiting to break. 12 Zarkali vessels hovered in perfect formation around the TSV Revenant, each with weapons ready. The Zarkali expected fear, or maybe silence. Instead, they received a message. Alara Voss stood tall at the center of her bridge. Her voice echoed through all channels, carried across encrypted frequencies to every ship within range. "We are not here to conquer. We are not here to beg. We are here to be seen." The message was short, calm, controlled, but it struck like thunder. For a few long seconds, there was no reply. Then, the Zarkali fleet moved. Not away, but closer. On board the Zalkroth, High Inquisitor Kor Volek stared at the Terran vessel with burning eyes. "They disabled one of my ships in a single strike. Without using any weapon we can detect," he said, his voice cold. His officers waited quietly for his command. One of them spoke at last. "Sir, our scans still show nothing. Their ship's hull reflects or absorbs everything. It's wrong." Volek turned. "Send all ships into attack formation. Target all weapons at the core of that vessel. If they will not submit, they will be erased." Inside the Revenant, Alara didn't flinch. "Status?" she asked. Lieutenant Rami replied without looking up. "They've changed formation. Their weapons are locked. It's a full assault posture. Time until they open fire? Hard to say. They're waiting on Volek's signal. Maybe seconds. Maybe less." Alara nodded. She turned to Chief Engineer Lin, who was already standing at the console controlling the alien core deep within the ship. "Prepare the gravitic burst," she said. Lin hesitated. "Are you sure?" "No fatalities," she reminded him. "Just make them see it." Lin gave a slight nod. His fingers danced over the controls. Deep within the Revenant, light shifted from soft blue to bright white. The alien core, embedded in the center of the ship, awoke. A low hum filled the vessel, barely noticeable but unmistakable. Every surface of the ship seemed to vibrate with quiet energy. Alara stood in the center of the bridge, silent and calm. "Broadcast to all channels," she said. Rami tapped the panel. Then, Alara spoke only 3 words. "Watch and understand." Lin activated the pulse. Outside, nothing exploded. There was no flash, no beam, no sound. Instead, an invisible wave rippled out from the Revenant in all directions, a gravitational shock that passed silently through space. To untrained eyes, it looked like nothing. But to the Zarkali ships, everything changed at once. Engines shut down. Shields collapsed. Weapon systems blinked out. On the Zalkroth, the bridge lights went dark. Officers stumbled. Screens flickered with static. Volek grabbed the edge of his console. "Report. Everything's offline, sir. Total systems crash across the fleet. Power cells are functional, but nothing responds." "How is that possible?" I don't know. Back on the Revenant, the hum faded. The ship returned to silence. Rami checked his panel. All Zarkali ships are disabled. We could destroy every one of them, right now. Alara nodded slowly. And we won't. She opened another channel. High Inquisitor Valak, she said, you now know what this ship is capable of. You opened fire. We responded without taking a life. We could end your entire fleet in seconds. But that's not why we came. She paused, letting her words sink in. This ship exists to prevent war, not start one. Your empire thought Earth was weak. You were wrong. Now you face a choice. Speak with us as equals, or watch your fleet drift powerless while the galaxy watches. She ended the transmission. On the Zalcroth, Valak said nothing at first. He stood in the dim light, the silence of his crew surrounding him. He had faced pirates, warlords, and rebellions. He had stared down empires that spanned star systems. But never had one ship silenced his entire fleet without a single shot. And never had that power been used with such restraint. Finally, he spoke. Bring us back online. Prepare a secure channel. I will speak to the Terran. On the Revenant, a blinking light appeared on Rami's console. Incoming transmission from Valak. It's private. Alara gave a small nod. Put it through. The screen lit up. Valak's image appeared, tall, severe, his scaled face unreadable. He stared at her for a moment. You could have killed us all, he said. Alara met his eyes. Yes, but you didn't. We didn't come to kill. We came to be recognized. Valak didn't reply immediately. Then he said, the ship is illegal by every treaty in the neutral zones. But treaties mean nothing if they can't be enforced. You've made your point, Commander Voss. She nodded. Earth seeks peace. But we won't kneel. Valak's eyes narrowed. You think you're ready to join the galactic stage? I don't think, she said quietly. I know. There was silence again. Then Valak gave a slow, shallow bow. This isn't over, Commander. But for now, the galaxy has heard you. His image vanished. The crew on the Revenant didn't cheer. They didn't clap. They just sat in quiet relief, letting the tension drain slowly. Alara looked around at them, her team, her ship, her mission, and felt a weight lift. The Zarkali fleet slowly powered back up, turning and retreating from the sector. One by one, the destroyers vanished into jump space. Only the Zalcroth remained for a while longer, its lights restored, its engines humming. Then it, too, turned and left. The sector was silent again, but it would never be forgotten. Alara sank into her chair. Stand down alert level, she ordered, and set course back to Earth. The crew moved instantly, still in perfect sync. They had done what no one believed possible. They had stood before an empire and not bowed. The stars had returned to silence. The Zarkali fleet had jumped out of the sector, one ship at a time, leaving only memories behind. But the echoes of what happened near Sector 9X were already racing across the galaxy, carried by Zarkali reports, intelligence drones, and listening stations hidden across the void. Inside the TSV Revenant, calm filled the bridge. The air felt heavy, not from tension, but from the weight of what they had just done. Commander Alara Voss stood alone in the center, watching the emptiness outside. The enemy was gone. No shots were fired. No blood had been spilled. And yet, she knew this was only the beginning. Status, she asked without turning. Lieutenant Rami looked up from his console. All systems stable. Energy output is back to standard levels. The core is resting. Hull integrity, 100%. Crew, alert, but steady. Some are still processing what we did. Alara nodded. Good. They should. We made history today. Rami stepped forward. Valak is still connected to the comms grid. He hasn't fully disconnected from our frequency. Alara looked over, curious. He's still listening? Maybe, Rami said. Or maybe he's waiting for something. Alara thought for a moment. Then she made a decision. Open a secure channel to the Zalcroth. Just between us. Rami nodded, tapped a few keys, and the screen lit up again with the Zarkali High Inquisitor's face. Valak looked slightly more composed now. Behind him, the bridge of the Zarkali dreadnought was dim, quiet, disciplined. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Alara said, I appreciate that you stayed behind. Valak blinked slowly. I wanted to understand what just happened. I don't like mysteries, Commander. This ship was never meant to start a war, Alara said calmly. It exists because Earth was tired of being ignored. We weren't invited to the table, so we built our own seat. Valak narrowed his eyes. Do you truly believe this path leads to peace? I believe it gives us a choice, she answered. And that's more than we ever had before. Valak leaned forward, his expression unreadable. Your restraint was calculated. You disabled a destroyer and a fleet without killing. You knew it would shock us. I knew it would show you that power without control is chaos. And control without compassion is tyranny, Alara said. There was a long pause. Then, unexpectedly, Valak gave a low, short nod. You understand more than I expected. Most young civilizations fall in love with their weapons. Earth remembers what war costs. We had centuries to learn that lesson. Valak folded his arms. What do you want, Commander Voss? I want Earth recognized as an independent neutral force, Alara said directly. Not under Zerkali oversight. Not under any galactic charter we didn't agree to. We want a seat in diplomatic councils and open trade routes. Valak laughed once, a dry, sharp sound. You've earned attention, not alliance. Attention is a start. He stared at her for a long time. Then, with careful words, he said, if I agree to open talks with the Galactic Council, unofficially, what do I receive in return? Alara didn't hesitate. No more appearances of this ship in Zerkali territory. No fleet movement. No Terran expansion without prior notice. And I'll share our sensor logs of this encounter, unedited. Valak's brow furrowed. You'd give up that data? Only what we already showed you. Nothing classified. Just enough to prove to the Council that we handled this peacefully. Valak considered the offer. His pride didn't want to say yes. But his instinct told him Earth was no longer just another background planet. Very well, he said. You'll receive a message within the week. Expect a representative. Not me. I wouldn't expect anything less, Alara replied. He paused again, then added, You've changed the equation, Commander. But equations have consequences. They always do, she said. The screen went dark. A quiet breath passed through the bridge. Rami broke the silence. That was a lot smoother than I expected. Alara half smiled. Diplomacy works better when you don't arrive with your hands tied. He leaned in. Do you trust him? No, she said honestly. But I trust the message. We showed them we're not afraid. That matters. A few hours later, the Revenant entered jump prep. The gravity core was cooling down, and their NAV charts were being updated for the trip home. Crew members rested in their quarters or reviewed logs in silence. In the secure holding cell on Deck 3, Ambassador Rien sat on the bunk, arms crossed. He looked up as Alara entered. You didn't lose the ship, he said. No, she replied. You didn't start a war either. No. He looked at her. Then maybe I was wrong. You were scared, Alara said. And you acted out of fear. But that almost cost us everything. He didn't argue. He just nodded slowly. I'm not going to court-martial you, she said. But your diplomatic credentials are revoked. When we get back to Earth, you'll answer to the Council. Fair. She turned to leave, then stopped. You wanted peace, Rien. Next time, let the people who know how to hold a line decide how to keep it. She walked out. In the command quarters, Alara finally sat down alone. The lights were low. Her hand rested on the desk beside a glowing display. She tapped the console. Begin log. The computer chimed softly. Mission summary. Successful. Contact with Zerkali forces complete. Objective achieved. Peaceful resolution without loss of life. Diplomatic channels opened. Earth's presence recognized. The ship performed above expectations. Crew was exceptional. She paused. I don't know what happens next. But today, we stood our ground. We weren't the biggest, the oldest, or the loudest. But we were seen. She ended the log. Outside, the Revenant shimmered quietly, surrounded by stars and shadows. Earth was no longer just watching the galaxy. Now, the galaxy was watching Earth. The TSV Revenant drifted silently through slip space, its engines humming low as it neared the Sol system. After days of travel, the stars began to stretch and settle again into familiar constellations. Earth, blue, white, and green, waited in the distance, suspended like a jewel in the darkness. Commander Alara Voss stood at the observation window of her quarters, watching the planet grow larger. This time, she wasn't looking at it as a citizen, but as a symbol. Earth had changed. And so had she. Behind her, the soft chime of the ship's AI broke the silence. Commander, we are 30 minutes from Terran orbital approach. Incoming secure message from the Council. Patch it through to my terminal, she said without turning. The message was brief. A formal acknowledgement of the Revenant's success. A request for a full debrief. An invitation to address the Council in person. Alara closed the message and sat at her desk. The words felt distant. Bureaucrats hadn't seen what she had seen. They hadn't felt the pulse of power ripple through the ship's core, or stared down the eyes of an empire. But they would benefit from it. That was her duty, to lead in silence while others spoke in comfort. The door chimed. "Come in," she said. Lieutenant Rami entered, holding a data tablet. He looked more rested now. There was a quiet confidence in his steps. "Alara," he said, for once using her name. "We've confirmed it. The Zerkali envoy is en route to Earth. Not a warship. A diplomatic shuttle." She looked up. "Already?" Rami nodded. "Word is spreading across the neutral zones. Other species are listening, watching. Some think we're dangerous. Some think we're reckless. And some finally realize we're here to stay," she added. Rami set the tablet down. "You made them see us. Not just the ship. Not just the tech. You made them see us as equals." "I made them pause," Alara said. "The rest will take time." The Revenant slipped into Earth orbit, its sleek black hull now visible to orbital stations and satellites. Civilian networks were already buzzing. Leaks had reached the public. People around the world had heard rumors, a Terran ship that silenced an alien fleet. A ship that shouldn't exist. And now, it was coming home. As they docked at the Terran defense platform above Earth, Alara led her crew down the exit ramp. A reception team waited, council members in tailored uniforms, soldiers in formal lines, and engineers who looked at the Revenant like it was a myth made real. Alara stepped forward, greeted by Counselor Aaron, a gray-haired man with sharp eyes and a politician's smile. "Commander Voss," he said, "on behalf of Earth, I congratulate you. You've accomplished what no other Terran has." Alara didn't smile. "This mission wasn't about glory, Counselor. It was about survival. And you've secured it, for now," Aaron replied. "There will be questions. Tensions. But what you've done has bought us something we haven't had in centuries. Time," she said. He nodded. "And respect." Later, in the council chambers, Alara stood alone before a panel of leaders. They asked questions about the alien core, about the crew's behavior, about her personal judgment. She answered clearly. No exaggeration. No pride. Just facts. Some of them looked uncomfortable with how much she had done without their approval. Others were quietly impressed. One counselor finally asked, "Would you do it again?" Alara answered without pause. "Yes." Weeks passed. Diplomatic talks began with the Zarkali Empire. Cautious. Careful. But peaceful. Other species sent messages of curiosity or warning. A few sent requests for dialogue. The galaxy was shifting, and Earth was no longer on the outside. Back aboard the Revenant, the crew prepared for a new mission. The ship had been inspected, analyzed, praised, and feared, but it remained under Alara's command. In the quiet hours, she returned to the observation deck. The stars still looked the same. Cold. Far. Endless. Rami joined her. "Hard to believe," he said. "What is?" "That we did all this, and no one died." She gave a small smile. "That's how we win. Not by fire, but by being better than what they expect." He looked at the ship. "Where to next?" "Wherever they tell us," she said. "And when they hesitate, wherever we need to be." On a distant planet, Inquisitor Valek stood before a Zarkali council. Behind him, a holoscreen played footage of the Revenant disabling an entire fleet with a single pulse. His voice was quiet, controlled. "The Terrans are no longer a backwater species. They've built something that should not be possible. But more dangerous than their ship is their discipline. They had the power to destroy us. And they chose not to." He looked at the council. "That," he said, "is what makes them dangerous." The TSV Revenant left orbit once more, a shadow across the stars. Its mission had changed, but its purpose had not. It was not a symbol of war. It was a reminder. Earth is watching now, and it will not be forgotten again.